Back then, being gay or lesbian was very risky in the film business. Many stars signed contracts saying they had to keep up a perfect public image. If people even suspected they liked someone of the same sex, they could lose their film roles, or the studio might spread false stories to hide the truth. Gossip columnists would make up stories, and fans often never knew what to believe. In the golden era, telling your true identity could be dangerous. That's why so many stars stayed silent or invented fake romances to show the world. In this program, we will look at 20 rumored gay celebrities of Hollywood's golden era who, according to stories and clues, never publicly came out at the time. Sit back as we pull back the curtain on Hollywood's secret histories. First, Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson was the picture of masculine charm in the 1950s and 1960s. He starred in romantic comedies with actresses like Doris Day, playing the handsome heartthrob who always swept ladies off their feet. Fans loved his tall frame, strong jaw, and kind smile. But behind the scenes, many people close to him suspected he was gay. During the golden era, the studio system controlled much of Hudson's personal life. Some say the studio arranged a marriage for him to hide the truth. He even went through a brief marriage to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates. But rumor has it that Gates didn't realize he was gay at first. They divorced a few years later. People who worked with Rock Hudson often talk about how kind he was, but also how private. He rarely shared details of his personal life, and the press never dared to ask tough questions. It wasn't until the 1980s, long after the Golden Age ended, that Hudson's sexuality was publicly revealed. At that time, he also became the first major celebrity to say he had AIDS, sparking a huge conversation about health and acceptance. In the Golden Era, however, no one dared to speak openly about it. Rock Hudson had to keep this part of himself hidden, smiling for cameras while longing for the freedom to be truly seen. Second, Cary Grant. Cary Grant was the epitome of sophistication. With his charming accent and perfect comedic timing, he became one of the most beloved stars of the Golden Era. Movies like Bringing Up Baby and North by Northwest showcased his wit and suave looks. Yet, many rumors swirl about his private life, suggesting he might have been bisexual or gay. The biggest talk involves his close friendship with actor Randolph Scott. They met in the early 1930s and, for a time, lived together in a beach house in Malibu. Tabloids printed photos of them in casual attire, cooking and laughing. Fans were told they were just pals, but Hollywood gossip suggested a deeper bond. Studios, worried about Cary Grant's leading man image, often arranged relationships to quiet the rumors. He was married multiple times, but people still wondered if he was truly in love with any of his wives. Some said he had an on-again, off-again romance with Randolph Scott for years. Grant, however, always denied any claims about his sexuality. When asked in interviews, he changed the subject or joked it away. Whether these stories are true or not, Cary Grant remains a symbol of classic Hollywood, a star who might have kept some truths locked away behind his charm and handsome smile. Third, Randolph Scott. If Cary Grant was known for romance and comedy, Randolph Scott was known for his strong, steady presence in Western films. He rode horses and wore cowboy hats like a natural, appearing in more than 60 Westerns. But just like Cary Grant, Randolph Scott faced rumors about his private life, mainly centered on the time they shared that Malibu beach house. Photographs from the 1930s show Scott and Grant looking very relaxed together. They cooked dinners, went swimming, and wore matching outfits. Some fans believed they were simply best friends, while others saw signs of a hidden romance. According to some accounts, the studio tried hard to manage these rumors. telling the press that both men liked to spend time with beautiful starlets. Scott married twice, yet neither marriage seemed especially close. Many watchers believe these might have been arrangements to keep the gossip down. Friends from that era sometimes hinted that Scott and Grant shared a deep companionship. Still, no one dared to speak publicly, because it could ruin a career in an age where men had to look tough and heterosexual to star in big films, especially westerns. Randolph Scott took these secrets to his grave. Today, historians and fans still debate whether the rumors were true or just a story. But for many, the friendship between Randolph Scott and Cary Grant remains one of Hollywood's most whispered-about mysteries. Fourth, Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was a talented actor who starred in movies like A Place in the Sun, From Here to Eternity, and Red River. He was known for his intense, emotional style and for bringing a sensitive touch to Hollywood's leading men. Unlike many other stars, Clift hated the big studio system. He often fought for better, more realistic roles. Off-screen, Clift was very secretive. Friends said he struggled with his sexuality, possibly being gay or bisexual, at a time when that was incredibly hard to admit publicly. He also battled substance abuse and depression, which some believe was tied to the pressure of hiding who he really was. An important moment in Clift's life was a serious car accident after leaving a party at Elizabeth Taylor's house. He suffered huge injuries to his face and never truly recovered. Some say the pain drove him further into drinking and pills. Elizabeth Taylor stayed a loyal friend, and she supposedly knew about his private life. Montgomery Clift died young, at only 45. While many admired his acting genius, they also pitied his lonely struggle. Rumors about his sexuality grew after his death, as friends hinted at secret relationships. Today, Clift's story reminds us of the heavy burden faced by stars who felt forced to hide part of themselves. Cinquième, James Dean. James Dean became a legend with just 3 major films: East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. He represented teenage angst and longing, quickly becoming an icon for young people everywhere. His sudden death in a car crash at age 24 froze his image in time. A forever young rebel. Stories about Dean's sexuality began even before he died. Some claimed he had relationships with both men and women. Director Elia Kazan once suggested Dean might be gay or bisexual, though it was never confirmed. In private notes, Dean was said to have told friends he disliked labels and just wanted to feel free. Many people in Hollywood recalled Dean's close friendships with older male mentors. Others said he had quick flings with starlets arranged by the studio. Fans couldn't decide what was true and what was made up by gossip columnists. After his death, the rumors grew, as people dug into every detail of his short life. James Dean left behind a mystery. A young, gifted actor who lived fast and died too soon. Whether he was gay, bisexual, or something else, we may never know for sure. But the whispers remain, adding an extra layer of romantic intrigue to his rebellious legend. Sexto, Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro was a silent film star who rose to fame with movies like Ben-Hur in 1925. He had a charming smile, a graceful presence, and was sometimes compared to Rudolph Valentino. Audiences fell for his Latin lover image, and he became one of the highest-paid actors of his time. In truth, Novarro was gay, though he never told the public. He quietly met men away from the spotlight, worried that a public outing could end his career. The studio took care to show him on dates with actresses to keep rumors at bay. But a few of his close friends knew the truth. Tragically, Novarro died in 1968 under violent circumstances. 2 brothers came to his home, allegedly believing he kept money hidden inside. They beat him, leading to his death. In the investigation that followed, newspapers hinted at Novarro's hidden lifestyle, focusing on the fact that he invited male visitors to his house. This was a sad final chapter for someone who had once been a shining star of silent cinema. Ramon Novarro's story reminds us that many golden-era actors were forced to hide who they loved. Even though Novarro's best movies showcased romance, he couldn't share his real-life relationships with the world. 7th, Tyrone Power. Known for his striking good looks, Tyrone Power was a leading man in films like The Mark of Zorro and Blood and Sand. He played swashbuckling heroes, and audiences adored him. Behind that confident exterior, some say Tyrone Power had secret attractions to men. Biographers mention that Power might have had affairs with male dancers or other men in the industry. However, the studio worked very hard to cover it up. They arranged appearances with women, and he went through multiple marriages, which could have been a way to keep fans believing in his straight, romantic image. One rumor states that Power's second wife, Linda Christian, found him with a man, leading to tension in their marriage. While none of this was confirmed, insiders repeated these stories often enough that they spread through Hollywood. Tyrone Power died of a heart attack at just 44 years old while filming abroad. Many fans only remember him as the dashing leading man who could fence with enemies on screen. But close friends hinted that he wrestled with a personal fence of his own, trying to balance who he really was with what the studio demanded him to be. 8th, Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins became famous for his chilling role as Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Although his biggest hit was in 1960, Perkins got his start in the 1950s, near the end of the Golden Age. He was known for a shy, boy-next-door appeal that made him stand out among more macho leading men. In private, Perkins was attracted to men, according to many of his close friends and later biographers. Some say he had a relationship with actor Tab Hunter, another star rumored to be gay. Perkins, however, married a woman and had children. People think he did this partly to fight off any public suspicion. The pressure from Hollywood and society was enormous. Tragically, Anthony Perkins passed away from complications related to AIDS in 1992. It was only in his final years that he quietly acknowledged his sexuality to those nearest to him. Even then, he never made a big announcement, possibly out of fear or simply from habit. He had been hiding it for so long. Though he doesn't fully belong to the earliest golden era in the 1920s to the 1940s, Anthony Perkins was part of that old studio system near its end. His story is a reminder that no matter the decade, many stars felt forced to live in the shadows to protect their careers. Sexton, Van Johnson. Van Johnson was the all-American boy next door. With his red hair and bright smile, he starred in musicals, comedies, and dramas throughout the 1940s and 1950s. Movies like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and In the Good Old Summertime showed him as a wholesome, friendly hero. Fans loved him for it. Behind the scenes, people whispered that Johnson was gay. MGM, the studio he worked for, worked overtime to hide any rumors. They carefully arranged dates with starlets and published pictures of him hugging actresses. When those rumors grew louder, some say the studio even pressured him into marrying his best friend's ex-wife. This marriage was often called a lavender marriage, meaning it was only for show. Despite all the cover-ups, Van Johnson never spoke about his private life. He kept smiling for the cameras and playing the happy-go-lucky guy on screen. After his career slowed down, he moved to stage roles and occasionally talked about feeling lonely in Hollywood, though he never explained why. As with many closeted stars, the truth remained hidden until after his death in 2008, when friends and biographers confirmed the rumors. Van Johnson's story highlights how studios controlled personal secrets to maintain a star's perfect public image. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo shot to fame in the 1950s, earning an Oscar nomination for his role as Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, alongside James Dean. He was seen as a sensitive and troubled teenager. Off-camera, Mineo struggled with typecasting. He often got roles as the young, misunderstood sidekick. As he grew older, Sal Mineo worked in theater and tried new films, but his boyish image proved hard to shake. Friends later said Mineo was gay, and he did find more comfort living openly after the big studio era ended. However, he never made a big public statement. He feared it would ruin his chances in Hollywood, especially for leading roles. Tragically, Mineo was stabbed and killed in 1976, when he was just 37 years old. Many people at first suspected it was a hate crime because he was gay, though the killer later claimed robbery as the reason. Still, fans and the press often linked his death to the risks gay men faced, especially if they were well known. Sal Mineo's life shows how fame can't protect someone from sadness or violence. He shined bright for a time, but behind that glow was a man who felt forced to hide who he was, and who paid a high price in the end. 11. William Haynes. William "Billy" Haynes was a big star in the late 1920s and early 1930s, transitioning from silent films to talkies. He starred in movies like Show People and Alias Jimmy Valentine, often playing a cheerful wisecracker. Unlike many others on this list, Haynes was openly gay in his private life, but he never announced it to the public, and the studio tried to keep it quiet. He lived with his partner, Jimmy Shields, for decades, calling him his roommate for the public. MGM head Louis B. Mayer gave Haynes a choice: end the relationship or lose his contract. Haynes refused to break up with Shields. As a result, his film career was basically ended by the studio. After that, Haynes found a new path. He became a very successful interior decorator, designing homes for other Hollywood stars. He stayed with Jimmy Shields for the rest of his life, showing a rare commitment in a place full of fake romances. Though William Haynes's movie career ended far too soon, his loyalty to his partner made him a quiet hero to many. His story is different because he chose love over fame, even if he had to walk away from the bright lights of Hollywood to live more honestly. Divinati, Cesar Romero. Cesar Romero is best remembered today as the playful Joker in the 1960s Batman TV series, but he also had a robust film career in the 1930s and 1940s. He starred in musicals and comedies, often cast as a smooth Latin lover or a sly gentleman. With his tall frame and bright smile, Romero fit the classic leading man mold. Hollywood gossip suggested Romero was gay, yet he never confirmed it publicly. He was connected with starlets at official events, but close friends hinted he was more comfortable around men. One anecdote says he enjoyed throwing parties where he felt free to be himself, as long as no reporters were around. Like Ramon Novarro, Cesar Romero came from a Latin background, so he faced additional pressure to maintain a traditional macho image. Breaking away from that image could have cost him his career. Instead, he played the studio's game, stepping out with female companions in front of cameras. In old age, Romero remained cordial and charming, telling interviews he was simply married to his work. While fans remember him fondly for his jokey grin, some still wonder if his private laughter with close male friends told a different story. One of a man who quietly kept his truth hidden from the world. 13th, Clifton Webb. Clifton Webb was best known for his elegant and witty on-screen characters, especially in films like Laura in 1944 and Sitting Pretty in 1948. Unlike many macho leading men of the era, Webb offered a refined, almost delicate presence that intrigued audiences. Born in 1889, he lived with his mother, Mabel, for most of his life. This close relationship raised eyebrows in Hollywood, where typical male stars were expected to marry and start a family. Studio press releases often described Webb's devotion to his mother as sweet, but insiders whispered that he might have been gay. He never publicly dated women, and there were almost no rumors linking him to popular actresses, which was unusual during a time when studios often arranged showmances to boost stars' images. Friends mentioned that Webb was quiet about his private life, but seemed more comfortable in artistic and high society circles, often attending elegant social events rather than Hollywood parties. Though no direct evidence confirms his sexuality, many have pointed out that Hollywood's strict moral codes and fear of scandal likely pushed Webb to remain guarded. He never married, and throughout his decades in the industry, he stayed focused on playing charming, razor-sharp characters on film. Today, many film historians consider him a prime example of a golden age star who may have quietly lived a life hidden from the public eye. 14th, Farley Granger. Farley Granger was a striking leading man who rose to fame in Alfred Hitchcock's Rope in 1948 and Strangers on a Train in 1951. With his youthful looks and thoughtful demeanor, he stood out from the more rugged or overly polished male stars of the 1940s and 1950s. Early on, studios promoted him as a heartthrob, pairing him with popular actresses in official publicity photos. Yet, behind the scenes, Granger was more private and preferred a quieter social circle. Later in life, he wrote an autobiography in which he identified himself as bisexual. According to his account, he had relationships with both men and women, but kept that part of his life discreet during his prime movie years. In the rigid Hollywood system of the mid-20th century, admitting such truths could ruin a career in an instant. Gossip magazines occasionally hinted at his unusual friendships, but there was never open confirmation. Granger's experiences highlight how even successful actors felt compelled to hide or downplay their true identities. Although he eventually shifted to theater and television work, his early film roles remain classics, showcasing his natural chemistry with co-stars and a sensitive acting style. By sharing his truth later in life, he offered a rare glimpse of how the industry's demands impacted personal freedoms in the Golden Age. 15. Dirk Bogarde. Dirk Bogarde was a major star in British cinema during the 1950s and 1960s, praised for his good looks and compelling performances. While he isn't always grouped with the core Hollywood names, his films, such as Victim in 1961 and Death in Venice in 1971, crossed over to international audiences, winning him acclaim. Off-screen, he led a discreet personal life, seldom discussing anything but his work. One key detail that fueled speculation was his longtime residence with Anthony Forwood, who was once married to actress Glynis Johns. Officially, Forwood was referred to as Bogarde's manager or companion. Unofficially, rumors circulated that they were romantic partners. Despite a few close friends acknowledging this possibility, Bogarde himself never made any public statement on the matter. He seemed determined to protect his privacy and maintain his image as a suave, sophisticated star. His role in Victim was noteworthy because it addressed homosexuality in a more direct way than most films of its time. Some viewers saw Bogarde's participation as a personal statement, though he denied any deeper motive. Given the social climate of the era, admitting to being gay could have ended his career. His silence thus speaks volumes about the tough choices many actors faced in that period, juggling personal truths with professional survival. 16th, John Dall. John Dall may not be as famous as some Golden Age icons, but film buffs still remember his roles in Alfred Hitchcock's Rope in 1948 and the noir classic Gun Crazy in 1950. In Rope, he portrayed one of two intellectual young men who commit a murder, and the movie was filled with subtle hints at a possible romantic relationship between the two male leads. Although such subtext was rare for the time, it wasn't openly discussed in promotional materials. Off-screen, Dall was a reserved and private individual, rarely appearing at big Hollywood gatherings. He had no high-profile romances with starlets, a departure from the typical leading man approach, where studios often staged photo ops with actresses to bolster a star's heterosexual image. Those who knew him spoke about his gentle nature and his preference for small get-togethers over flashy parties. With Farley Granger also part of Rope, fans and journalists at times lumped them together in rumors of hidden sexuality. Still, John Dall never publicly stated anything about his personal attractions. He performed in theater and television later in his career, maintaining his low profile. For today's movie, historians, his name often surfaces as a possible closeted actor who, like many others, found Hollywood's atmosphere too risky to reveal his private life. 17th Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier was one of the greatest actors of the 20th century, celebrated on both stage and screen. With standout roles in Wuthering Heights in 1939, Rebecca in 1940, and Hamlet in 1948, he became a household name. He also famously married Vivien Leigh, forming one of Hollywood and London's most glamorous power couples. Beneath that shining image, however, lay persistent whispers suggesting he engaged in at least one hidden same-sex relationship. One of the most talked-about rumors involved comedian Danny Kaye, known for White Christmas in 1954 and his energetic comedic style. Stories claimed Olivier and Kaye shared a secret affair for several years, although neither man publicly admitted it. Some friends who knew both men privately hinted there might have been more than simple friendship between them. Because Olivier was knighted and deeply respected in both film and theater circles, the potential scandal could have been devastating in that era. While historical evidence remains mixed, some call it baseless gossip, fans continue to debate whether these rumors hold truth. Olivier's strict adherence to his craft and carefully managed public persona left little room for candid confessions. Whether it was love, fleeting attraction, or just a rumor, the possible link between Olivier and Kaye remains one of the most intriguing and enduring stories from the Golden Age rumor mill. We've come to the end of our look at 20 Golden Era celebrities who were gay but never told anybody, at least not in public. Comment below about which one of these you never knew before.